Okay, so we are now in our final hurrah. We're trying to answer number 3. Um, so in my previous videos, I showed what a best fit line is. I showed how to create an equation. And now it's just a matter of how do we use this equation to figure out our answer. So if you can refresh your memory, our question is this. Based on this, what's the predicted number of customers at 2.5 hours? So there's 2 ways you can do this. You could use the actual graph, right? So where is 2.5 hours? So 2.5 hours is actually somewhere around here, right? 2.5 hours. If I look at where this line is, I'm gonna guess that most likely, based on this best fit line, if I'm around 2.5 hours, it's probably at that point, right? If that's the case, my guess at how many customers there are is somewhere between 20 and 30. So I can't, I could say that it looks like a certain number, but there's no way for me to give a specific number because there's no way I can do that based on a graph. But loosely, if I was just to make a good guess, using common sense, I could say something like, based on the scatter plot, there will be somewhere between 20 and 30 customers at 2.5 hours. Okay, so that is a legitimate answer to this question. What's the predicted, like what's a good guess of how many customers there will be at 2.5 hours? I look at the graph, I look at the line of best fit. I'm like, okay, somewhere around there, around 2.5 hours, it looks like it's gonna be between 20 and 30 customers. But if you want to make a better guess, like let's say you want a specific number, we can actually use the equation, right? So let's go back to number 1. What do we know and what do we don't know? We know that our x is 2.5 or 2.5 because that's how many hours we're thinking about. And our unknown is our y. We don't know what our y is, right? So what we can actually do is using this information, we plug it into the equation that we made in number 2. So y equals negative 10 over 1x plus 50, we can use that to calculate how many customers there'll be at 2.5 hours. So the way you do that is, there's our equation, y equals negative 10x plus 50. And I'm gonna plug in x. I'm gonna substitute x. Substitute meaning I'm gonna take away x and put that in with the number that we are using at this specific x value, right? Remember the math between the slope. So the math between the negative 10 and the x is multiplication. So we're doing negative 10 times x plus 50, all right? So I'm gonna replace our x value with 2.5. So it's negative 10 times, I'm gonna use parentheses because it's gonna be more organized, plus 50. So I know that I have to multiply whatever the x value is by our slope slash rate. So negative 10 times 2.5 is gonna be negative 25 plus 50. So negative 25 plus 50 is 25. So that means y is equal to 25 when x is equal to 2.5. Which makes sense, right? I'm saying y is our customer, so I'm saying that at 2.5 hours, we have 25 customers based on our best fit line, which makes sense because look, in our other answer, based on the scatter plot, there will be somewhere between 20 and 30, and 25 is between 20 and 30 customers, right? So you can see how like you can use common sense in a way to figure this out, or you can use an equation. I know that on my QPA, you won't be able to use the graph because I'm gonna be using a number that's off the graph. Like you won't be able to see it on the graph. And if that's the case, you do want to use the equation. So for the equation, you literally plug in x and solve for the other variable. And so at that point, it's just a lot of just using a calculator. I think as long as you understand that you're plugging in you're plugging in your known value into your equation. That's the most important thing that you want to remember. Okay? So let me just do another quick example, just so you guys know how to do this. What if it wasn't 2.5 hours? And what if it was, let's say, 10 hours? What if that's what we're trying to figure out? What if that's our known? So if we're trying to figure out 10 hours, we could literally do the same thing. Use the equation, y equals negative 10x plus 50. Our x is now 10. So I'm going to replace x with 10. Negative 10 times 10 plus 50. So that's going to be negative 100 plus 50 equals negative 50. So this is a little bit weird because mathematically it makes sense, but realistically it won't. But let me write out your answer. Basically, I'm saying that y is equal to negative 50 customers at x equals 10 hours. Okay? So this is what I'm saying based on my calculation. This is also still important. So there's no such thing as negative customer because you can't have a negative person. But if you were thinking about opening up this restaurant for 10 hours, right? Like in the dinner time, it says that if you do that, it's going to be predicted that you're going to have negative 50 customers. It means you're going to lose money, right? You're not going to be making any money. Customers won't be coming. In fact, it's going to be so ridiculous that like it's going to be more damaging to your business than not. So this is a great way for you to see, okay, if I make these calculations, I plug my known into my equation, I can see that I could use this argument to kind of figure out what to do as a restaurant owner, right? And ultimately, that's what I want you guys to think about when you are doing these problems. Just don't think about doing the bare minimum or just doing the steps that I tell you. Really, really think about what those numbers mean, right? Think about it in the context of the problem. What is this number? Why am I calculating it? Why is it multiplication? Why am I adding? Why am I switching out this variable? Why not y? Why not this? Like, I want you guys to ask these questions because only then can you guys solve these on your own. I could only help so much, right? So please keep this in mind. If you do still need help and you just want to go through some problems with me, obviously, like, I'm here to help. Yeah, and so look at this again, try your practice problems by yourself. You should already know this, but that is basically it for these instructions. Let me know if you have any questions. And yeah, hopefully math wasn't possibly easy. Have a great weekend.